I got a lot of questions in the comments about my cross-country trip from Portland, Oregon to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and then back again. So I figured I'd take a few minutes and try to sort through them. Wander on Two Wheels asks, I would love to hear about what items you took with you that you would not take the next time, and something you wish you had with you that you didn't take.
Well, as far as things that I wouldn't have brought, I actually did pretty well in not overpacking. But one area where I totally overpacked was camera equipment and stuff like that. I had a DSLR, I had 3 action cameras, and a drone, plus my phone, which has a camera on it, of course. So, in the end, I ended up pretty much just using the 2 action cameras because that felt more natural to me. I didn't want to make a movie. I just wanted to make a travel vlog, and that's what I ended up doing. So I didn't really need the extra camera and the drone. I only needed 2 action cameras and the batteries to go with them, and that was pretty much it. As far as things I wish I brought, man, I wish I had worn my Aero Stitch riding suit. Just before the trip, I went onto Facebook Marketplace and I found a barely used Roadcrafter suit from Aero Stitch, and I friggin' love it. But I wasn't really into the idea of wearing that suit pretty much untested for what turned out to be 7,300 miles. You know, I didn't know if it was going to be comfortable. I didn't know if it was going to be too hot. I had no idea if it would be waterproof, all that stuff. So I ended up just wearing my old Alpine Stars jacket and my protective tights, which are fantastic, by the way. I have no regrets about those. But I wish I had brought that Aero Stitch suit so that it could have gotten broken in over 7,300 miles and then it'd really be mine. But instead, I left it at home, and so I regret that.
Coffee 4 of Us asks, what was something you expected but didn't experience, and something you experienced but didn't expect?
Well, as far as things that I expected and didn't experience, I would say I expected a lot more issues to come up with the bike. Not because I didn't have faith in the bike, but, you know, over 7,300 miles across the country and back, anything can happen. You know, I expected maybe a flat, I don't know, maybe a light burns out, who knows. But none of that happened. The only thing that happened, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is I had an oil leak. But that wasn't catastrophic, and it didn't stop me from going where I needed to go, so I was expecting some troubles. I mean, I didn't have them, mechanically. Something I didn't expect, but that happened, was getting caught up in a flash flood and a tornado warning back in upstate New York. I can't remember exactly what town it was. I was not expecting that at all. I knew that the weather was going to be varied through the trip, but I wasn't expecting quite that extreme. The other thing I wasn't expecting, but happened, and I probably should have been expecting, was the high winds that I experienced going through places like North Dakota and Montana. It got pretty bad there for a while. It was blowing me all over the road. I was doing about 70 and I was at like a 45-degree angle sometimes. There was something. I was not expecting that.
Scootphoria asks, did you suffer from monkey butt during the ride?
I don't know exactly what monkey butt is, but I did get a little bit of a saddle sore, and that was kind of a bummer. I didn't really know how to deal with it because I wasn't expecting it. And eventually what I did, and this is, I don't know, kind of genius, I think, is I tied a bandana around an elastic belt that I had with me, and I wrapped that around the uppermost portion of my thigh. And it was fairly tight, not tight enough to cut off circulation, but tight so it wouldn't move. And what that did was it provided space for that saddle sore to sort of live without being in contact with the seat or my pants or whatever. and it gave it some breathing room. I know it's gross, but it's true. And it worked instantly. I couldn't believe it. I was in a decent amount of pain, I have to admit. But as soon as I put that belt on and sat in the saddle, it completely went away. I was shocked. So, if you ever get the saddle sore, like I did, grab yourself a belt and a bandana. The bandana went right below the saddle sore on my legs, so it acted as sort of that's what gave it the space, right? And then you tighten the belt, and it was all golden from there.
This is an interesting one. Alan Marison asks, compare the mindset of Bug takes a very long ride on his bike versus Bug Moto Greets America, the movie. That is, does something fundamental change about the way you feel during a ride when you're just out having fun versus Bug creates content? Pros and cons of each experience.
There's not a lot of difference between when I'm out making a video and when I'm out just sort of riding around for fun. Keep in mind that 95% of the time, if not more, I'm just out riding, having fun. I'm not making videos. When I'm out making a video, the one thing that's a little different is that I'm a little bit more wary of how I'm riding. Now, I know that I don't always model the best behavior, but I try, right? I try not to ride like an asshole. Because I don't want to show you that. I don't want to encourage that kind of behavior. It's not that I ride like an asshole a lot. Every once in a while I like to hit the twisties pretty hard or whatever, or, sometimes I don't 100% obey the speed limit on the freeway or something like that. But I try not to put that stuff in my videos. So when I'm making a video, I'm a little more conscious of that. The other major difference is that when I'm making a video, I'm obviously talking, and I talk with my hands a lot, and I know that grinds on some of y'all's nerves, but it's just a habit that I have such a hard time breaking. One thing that I'm determined to break is talking with both of my hands at the same time. Luckily right now, although everything is pretty much perfect on the Himalayan, the one thing that isn't is it's got a slight pull to the right. The front wheel needs to be trued or something. So it's actually really hard for me to take both hands off the handlebars. I told the dealer, maybe we don't fix it because maybe I'll be safer if we just keep it pulling to the right. That way I keep both my hands on the handlebars. But anyway, that's a big difference. Obviously when I'm riding by myself, I am talking to myself, but I'm not talking in such an expressive way that I'm using both of my hands or one of my hands or whatever. I do tend to talk a lot to myself when I'm riding out just to have fun. And I don't mean like talking to myself literally out loud. Sometimes I am. But a lot of the times I'm having the same conversation in my head that I do in these videos. Like I am mentally reviewing the motorcycle or mentally telling you why I love the motorcycle so much or whatever. And to a point, it gets a little bit towards the OCD side where I just can't stop doing it in my brain, and I have to purposely tell myself, okay, stop doing that. Think of something else. Listen to music. Be a person, not a YouTuber. And so that's a thing.
Bill Waterhouse asks, I'm curious if you regret all the highway riding and missing out on the back roads you could have enjoyed.
Yeah, I do regret sort of spending too much time on some of the more major roads and less time on smaller roads kind of like this. One of the reasons that was true on the way out to Cape Cod is because I actually did have a deadline. I needed to get to Cape Cod by a certain time to meet with friends. And so I don't regret sort of screwing across the country to get to that. It was an experience that was a little different than the way home, but it was still an experience and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I wish I had a little bit more time to dawdle, but at least on the way out, I didn't. On the way home, I did try to find roads that were more interesting than the roads that I took to get out east. When I got into, say, South Dakota, is when I really started exploring and finding beautiful roads and beautiful places to go. And if I could do it all over again, I'd spend more time on the way home doing stuff like that. For the most part, on the way home, the first half of the ride home, I was kind of trying to get somewhere. And then the second half of the ride home was when I was really just exploring and 100% just dawdling and doing my own thing. So it is what it is.
First Paintball Master asks, would you want to do this trip with a friend? If no, is it because of the distance and time or another reason?
I don't easily become lonely, so I wouldn't necessarily want to do that trip again with a friend just because I thought I'd be lonely, because it's just not really a thing for me. I enjoy being alone. But yeah, there is part of me that wish I had someone to share the experience with. Not maybe the whole experience, but like every once in a while something would happen and I'd say, oh, I wish she was here to see this, or I wish Ladybug were here, although Ladybug doesn't ride a motorcycle, so she wouldn't be there, but you get my point. Yes, there are times when I could have used a friend, but it's not because I was lonely, it was because I had something I wanted to share, or, I crashed in Montana and could have used some help picking up the bike. I would not be opposed to doing the cross-country trip again with a friend. The one thing that I've come to realize with age and experience, and you probably know this too, but you can't be responsible for anyone else's happiness in this world. And so if I were going on a cross-country motorcycle trip with a friend, I would want to make sure that that friend was someone that could sort of generate their own happiness, and I don't want to be responsible to make sure that that person is happy the whole time. You know that feeling? Maybe you had it as a kid where you just wanted to please your parents or whatever it is, and you want to keep them happy. I have no time for that anymore in my life. And so the idea of traveling with someone who constantly needs to be encouraged or made happy or entertained, that's not my deal. I'm not doing that. But if you find the right person that you don't have to entertain and you don't have to keep happy, that they're on their own, self-sufficient emotionally, then hell yeah, bring it on, let's go.
Steve H545 asks a rather personal question. So, did you gain weight on the trip or lose weight? Just curious, lol.
So, in my experience with long distance travel, weight gain, weight loss can go either way. It really kind of depends on the trip, right? So if you're on a trip where the main goal is to sort of eat your way through Italy, then yeah, you're going to come back heavier than when you left. If you're on a trip where you're going to be doing a lot of activities, bicycling, hiking, stuff like that, and, you're doing your best to eat healthy, you might come back skinnier than when you left. For me, I did not come back skinnier than when I left. I made some bad choices. One night, I ordered Little Caesars pizza. I think I ate the whole damn thing. I don't know. I ate a lot of gas station wraps, like a chicken Caesar wrap and stuff like that. And then, for energy, because I would find myself just needing a little bit of energy, I'd grab a thing of peanut butter M&Ms or something terrible like that. And then my little reward at the end of the day would be some non-alcoholic beers, which, still have calories, even though they don't have alcohol. So in the end, I'm gonna guess I came home 5 to 7 pounds heavier than when I left. That's not awesome. Could have been worse, though.
Richard Nottingham and a few others asked a question similar to this. Why do you have a bandana on your side bag, and what's with the hair bands on the right mirror bracket?
I get this question a lot about the hair bands and the bandana and stuff like that. Essentially what it is, well, there's two things. The bandana was a little souvenir from a trip I went on with a group of, at the time, new friends. This was last year. We went up to Washington State and did a big loop. And, now a couple of my best friends here in Portland are folks that I went on that trip with. I didn't even know them when we left. So that's kind of fantastic. So we all have that bandana. My friend Alice, I think, gave each one of us our own bandana. And we all tied them onto the back of our bikes like a little biker gang. And I just never took mine off. That's just how I roll. The other stuff, the hair bands and like this thing and whatever, They're just little trinkets that I've picked up along my trips. So the hairbands I found in a parking lot somewhere near, I want to say like Palo Alto, California or something, when I was on an adventure. And I just saw them. They were in a parking lot. I was stopped just having some water or something, and I looked down and they were there, and I said, those are super cool. They remind me of when I was in high school and all the girls would wear stuff like that. So I took them and put them on my mirror, and I never took them off. Even that was like 3 bikes ago, but I've kept the mirrors for each bike, and so I've kept the little doodads that go along with them. Like this thing over here, this little piece of whatever, actually I found on the ground the other night when I went to a concert with some friends. We went out to Sauvie Island and saw a really cool concert, and we were leaving the venue, and I looked down and there was all of this stuff like this in braids, some sort of farm thing, and I just thought it was really cool, and I wanted to remember the night, so I took a little bit of it and I tied it onto my mirror. This thing over here was from, where the heck was that from? Montana? Yeah. That I found on the ground when I pulled over to collect myself after I crashed a couple of times on a dirt road in Montana on my cross-country trip. And so every time I look over at that little thing, it reminds me of standing there, regaining my confidence, understanding that, I just had a little adventure, I'm not hurt, everything's fine. Yeah, just a little memento. So, I like to pick up little things to remember my little adventures. That's all it is.
A lot of folks have asked if I regret selling the Moto Guzzi and if I miss it.
I do, in fact, miss the Moto Guzzi very much. Like I said, that was a fantastic bike. Me and that bike gelled. We had a little bit of a relationship going on, and that's to be expected when you ride something for 7,300 miles. In total, I did 10,000 plus miles on that bike before I traded it. And so, yeah, I formed a bond with it. I miss it. I look at pictures and it's like looking at a girlfriend that broke up with me or something. I don't know. But yeah, I miss it. However, I do not regret trading it because I am really enjoying this Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. I'm not saying it's a better bike, but it's a better bike for me, I think, as far as what I want to do, and potentially as far as touring goes in the future. I would 100% hop on this bike tomorrow morning and do the same exact tour again. I have absolute 100% faith and confidence in this bike. More so than I think that I did in the Guzzi, just because I know that there's more service departments out nationally that can take care of a problem should something come up. But also because I think this is a simpler bike in some ways. I know that the Guzzi's air cooled and this is liquid cooled and all that, but this is a single cylinder, small engine, not a lot of bells and whistles, and I trust it in a I don't know, maybe in a way that I shouldn't. But I love it. It's got the 3 C's that I look for. It's got comfort, it's got controllability, and it's got a way of giving you confidence in your riding. Now, it's a little bit lower, the seat position's a little bit lower, so I can more easily flat foot this bike. It's, 75, 80 pounds lighter than the Guzzi, something like that. It's just much more controllable for me. I feel like I'm much more in command of this bike than I was the Guzzi, especially the Tiger 900. It's just, I don't know, it works for me. I don't want to go nuts and sing its praises because, like I said, I know you all are sick of hearing it, and and you all think that I'm going to probably trade it tomorrow, so I'll skip all that. All I'm saying is I do miss the Guzzi, but I don't regret my decision. I'm really super happy with the Royal Enfield.
A lot of people were wondering why my airbag didn't deploy when I crashed in Montana. Well, there's a pretty good reason for that.
Well, the airbag didn't deploy because I'm a moron. It didn't deploy because it was in my pannier and not on my body. That morning, for whatever reason, I decided not to wear the airbag. I thought it would be hot that day. I knew the riding, or at least I thought the riding would be easy, and I don't know. I just wanted something different, so I didn't wear the airbag. And that's why it didn't deploy. Now, that said, I'm not sure how much it would have helped me. It probably would have prevented the broken rib. Maybe. And come to find out, one thing that I realized about the whole broken rib thing, I think it was because I was wearing this Garmin InReach on my chest right here, and I think I landed on it. And that's why I'm not wearing it right now. I'm waiting for like an armband or something, because I'm not going to wear it on my chest. I'm never going to wear anything on my chest again, because I think I learned my lesson with that. So, because of that, I'm not sure that the airbag would have helped. And in addition, it would have been a deployment, and so the airbag would have been useless for the rest of the trip. And it would have ended up costing me, what was it, $200 to have it repacked? So, I don't know if it was the wrong decision or the right decision, but regardless, it didn't deploy because I wasn't wearing it.
Noid Recluse 8906 asks, your body language says dejected and just going through the motions of touring. Are you sure you're having fun?
I remember reading this comment about my body language when I was actually on my trip, and I got a good chuckle out of it because I was having a tremendous amount of fun on that trip. But looking back at some of the video, yeah, I could kind of see how you might think that I was looking a little dejected, and I don't know. But the reality is, you know, cross-country touring can take a little bit of a toll on you, both physically and mentally. Not necessarily in a bad way. It's one of those things where at the end of the day you feel completely wrung out, but you know, that's the whole point, right? It's like going for a run. I hear I don't run, but you know, it can be miserable during, but it's fantastic after. And maybe that's a little bit of what you're seeing in some of the videos, but rest assured, that trip was about as much fun as I think I should be allowed to have. Now, it's not like rah-rah fun. I'm not smiling the whole time, but I'm not at all frowning. I'm not like dreading it. I'm not saying this is terrible. I'm just in a sort of flow state of, I don't know, pure happiness and contentment. And that's when I'm having fun. I'm not the type of person that really, you know, even though I went to a concert the other night, I don't go to a lot of concerts. I don't do a lot of things that a lot of other people might find fun, because I don't find the fun in, you know, being with 1,000 other people in a small room or something like that. Fun for me is being out on a day like this on my own, just riding. I don't stop a lot. I don't do sightseeing a lot. I just want to ride. And when I'm riding, even though I might not be smiling on the outside, I am absolutely smiling on the inside. So yeah, I had fun.
Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. If you haven't subscribed already, now's a good time. Those are my people.